Sup nerds! Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today's video, I feel like it's a fun one. I thought of this idea because I was just kind of looking through some video ideas, and it was talking about like recommendations, and so I was like, honestly, I thought this would be a fun one. The Lord just put it in my brain, and I was like, let's do it. So we actually picked 5 different categories that I feel like are popular, that people are always looking for recommendations for, and I picked 2 books for each category of where I would start. I feel like this obviously gets crazy really fast, but for me, this is where I would start. This is where I would recommend people start, and when people ask me for recommendations, these are typically the books I start with, because again, sometimes if you're in too deep, like sometimes if you give them a book too deep in, it's overwhelming, and so I don't want to do that, and these are just my recommendations that I would recommend first, Anyway, first, if you guys like recommendations, if you guys like talking about books, if you guys like all the nerdy things, then definitely give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and without further ado, let's just get started. I really hope what I said made sense, but it's like these I would recommend first, and then after, if you read them, we could go a little bit deeper, talk about other stuff. I feel like sometimes too, like these are, I don't want to say safe options necessarily, but I feel like these books are definitely good representations of what you're getting yourself into in those specific categories of books, if that makes sense. So it's hard to explain without explaining it, but I'll talk about it. First, the category is adult romance. Okay, so again, oh, hello Marissa, wrong book. Okay, so like I was saying, I picked two options. So the first one I have is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. Now, I recommend this first because I feel like a lot of reasons. First of all, I think this book is so good. It is very rom-com vibes, makes you laugh the whole way. You just love it. It's also a little bit like, it's not surface level. Yes, it's rom-com-y, but it's also a little bit deeper. You walk through this journey of this girl's life, but it's also obviously romance. This one is closed door though, and so I feel like I always recommend this first because I never know what people want to read. I don't know what they expect, especially too because if you're starting out reading, you have no idea what normally is in a book. And authors don't play anymore. They don't care anymore. So I like to recommend this book first because I feel like, first of all, you're gonna enjoy it no matter what, but also it's just like a little step in. You're not overwhelmed. It's not too much to think about. It's not a super long book. I feel like it is the perfect one to just start with. Again, it's fun, and closed door doesn't necessarily mean that this is like a boring book, or like there's no romance to it. Like, no, there's romance and stuff in it, but it's not all the juicy details, So I definitely recommend this book first. My friend just read it, she loved it, and it's a good one. Like, it's not, no lie. I would also recommend this series first. Maybe I should say, like, once I know what you want to read, if that makes sense. I love this series. I think it's so good. That is the Windor series by Katharina Mara. Now, this is open door, spicy romance. Like, it's all that in these books. But I feel like first of all, you cannot, there are very few romance books that are adult and don't have all that stuff in it. So I'm just saying, but like once I know, like, oh, okay, you don't mind reading anything and you just want an adult romance, this is one of my favorite series of all time. I think it is just incredible. If you guys don't know, the main characters is they're all brothers, but they all get in arranged marriages. So their grandmother picks who they marry, and then they have like 3 rules so that they get their inheritance money. So they have to be married, I think, for like at least 3 years. They have to sleep in the same bed every night, and then if they're apart, they can only be apart for like two consecutive days in a row, 2 or 3, and so it just makes for a good book, and that's the premise for all of them, so it's a good time. And I love this series, so I would definitely recommend that one. First, if you want to read, like, if you're like, I'll read anything, read that one. Okay, then we have YA romance. So this is young adult romance, if you don't know. I honestly, it's so hard because let's consider it young adult. Obviously, I think it's just under the age of 18, but I don't know where the beginning starts. So these are just they're kids who are the main characters. Not kids, I don't want to say that. I think one girl's 16. I think they might both be like 16. So I would just do your research if you're like looking for a recommendation for like your daughter or something. I would do a little bit of research, and not necessarily because there's anything like super inappropriate or anything in them. It's just like there could be a little bit more ahead than where your child's at, blah blah blah. Anyway, so here's some YA recommendations. First, well, I would recommend these both first, but I definitely love The Summer of Broken Rules by Caral. I think this book is so good. Maybe I'd recommend this for the summer. It is so good. I think it's fun. It's just, you laugh, you enjoy it. Like the whole thing with this one is that they're playing a giant game of assassin. Like, that's a good fun time, you know what I mean? And so the main character actually lost her sister, so she's kind of going through this like getting back out there after losing her sister. And it's just a good time because you're seeing her go through that, but also just having a good time with her family because it's her cousin's wedding and like they're playing assassin. Like, there's so much to this that I think is just so much fun. I would definitely recommend this. I have recommended this to my friend and she loved it. She thought it was such a good time and I thought it was a good time too. And then I also freaking love this one. I've talked about this a lot though. My sister read it, loved it. This is 11 Paper Hearts by Kelsey Hartwell. I freaking love this book. I think it is so good. It's very short and sweet. This is actually an amnesia romance. So the main girl, when you start off, she doesn't have her memory. So I think she got in a car accident or something like that, and loses her memories. But like, they don't want anyone telling her exactly like what happened because they want her to remember on her own. And so she's kind of just living this life that she thinks is right, I think that was the thing. She didn't lose all of her memories. She lost her memories for like the past year or something like that. And so she was kind of going back to where she was before then. So you gotta kind of figure out if that's where she was a year ago or like kind of it's just such a good time. But then also someone is leaving her 11 paper hearts that kind of take her to different places that hopefully kick up her memory. And so it's just such a good book. It's very sweet, it's very short, and it's just a good time and you just love the whole time. I gotta reread this because I love this book so much. So definitely would recommend that one, and I've recommended those before. Most of these I've recommended before. I haven't had too many people ask me about fantasy, but yes. Okay, then we have 2 dark romance recommendations. Dun dun dun. So first, of course, we have Emily Henry Hooked. This is the Never After series. So this is kind of like the villains get the girl, basically, but the villains are still villaining. They're still villaining. So it is, again, romance, open door, that kind of vibe, but it is what is the word? Darker. So it's not just like an adult romance. Like, the villain is doing his villain things, and so this is not for everyone. It's really not. But if you're looking for a dark romance organization, they're dark romances for you. And I honestly, this one wasn't my favorite out of the series, but I think there are definitely a bunch in the series that I love, so I definitely would recommend reading the series because everyone loves different ones, in my opinion. I haven't seen one person who likes all 5, or all 6, whatever, all of them, but I'm sure you'll find a few that you love in this series. Like, you're gonna like a lot more than you hate in this series, in my opinion, I feel like. So definitely just, read them all. And then we have this is the Wicked Villains series by Katie Robert. If you guys don't know Katie Robert, like, honestly, you gotta just know. Anyway, this one are a little bit, again, darker. So if you don't like that, you're not gonna like this. But these are shorter. They're 200 pages. So I think they're technically like a novella. I learned that novellas go by word count. I did not know that. I mean, I learned that a while ago, but just thought I'd share that with you. So it doesn't really go by page count, it goes by word count. But anyway, I believe this is technically a novella. It's just super short, very quick paced, very spicy, very open door. But if you're looking for a darker romance, then these are good. Again, these are the same kind of thing. Honestly, I wanted to do a video comparing the 2 series, but here's what happened, is that Emily McIntyre, I don't know if I said Emily Henry earlier, my bad. Emily McIntyre is actually coming out with one more book in the series, and so I was like, I don't know if I should compare the 2, but They're both like the villain gets the girl basically. So they honestly have similar like storylines. So I'll just grab it so we can compare. We have Hooked and A Worthy Opponent. They're both Hooked, you know what I mean? So anyway, it's a good time. But I would definitely recommend those. But again, you gotta know what you're signing up for. So like, don't just be asking just because you kind of think you want it. Like, no. Like, those are serious. They're serious business. Okay, now we're gonna go with adult fantasy. So again, I have 2 recommendations here. First, I would definitely From Blood and Ash, and this one's not a surprise, but I feel like people wouldn't agree necessarily, but I just don't know why people would recommend anything else. Because first of all, like, Fourth Wing isn't even done yet. A lot of the books series that are very popular and stuff like that are not even done yet, or there's more coming. And like, ACOTAR is not a bad one to start with. I just feel like once you read ACOTAR, then you feel like you have to read Throne of Glass, then you feel like you have to read the next one. Like, I feel like once you go there, there's no going back. And so I feel like that one's not sticky, but it's a harder one to recommend, because then you're like, also, like, the books kind of change, and in the end, it's kind of someone else's. But, like, it's not necessarily, it's not easy to start with. I feel like the From Blood and Ash series is super easy to start with, because the books are so good. They're very quick paced. They have a good, not all of them are out, but it has a good, decent chunk out that it'll take you a while to read them. And so I feel like, honestly, if you're stepping into, like, adult fantasy, and you don't mind it being open door, then From Blood and Ash, I think the series is incredible. Definitely my favorite fantasy series right now. I'm not gonna lie, Fourth Wing is pretty up there, but honestly, I just feel like because there's only 2 of the books out, it's like hard to recommend it, and then I didn't like one of those books, so it's like it's hard to recommend it. So I would definitely recommend From Blood and Ash first if you're looking for that. I think that series is so bomb. I think so many people, it's so underrated because it's scary to look at, but like, I would recommend it, and I would say don't be afraid because these books are so good. Anyway, I would also definitely, of course, recommend The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Chris Broadbent. I think this one is a little bit easier because it's a duology, but then there's one novella, so there's only 3 books in the series. They're very quick paced. You're very in it. It's not hard to follow along. You kind of understand things off the bat. You see where everything is. It's giving Hunger Games. This first one's giving Hunger Games with vampires, and so it's just a win, and I definitely recommend this. I think it's easy to follow along. Again, this is adult, open door, but I would definitely still, again, recommend it first if, again, making sure people knew what they were signing up for. But I would definitely recommend those, because fantasy, honestly, is so hard. And, like, if you, one wrong move and you're screwed. I feel like if you start with the wrong book, you're going to get put off. And that's the thing. I wouldn't want to recommend something to someone and someone get put off by, like, a series or, like, fantasy in general, because again, fantasy is very specific to like what you like. I feel like, you know, obviously Harry Potters are like a great way to start, but like those are like, I don't know how to explain it. They're like cult classics. So I'm like, do they really represent fantasy now? Not really. Because those are very specific to Harry Potter. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, last but not least, we have young adult fantasy. Again, 2 options, so I don't know why I'm pretending like that's a new thing. Anyway, first, I would recommend I would say read this first and don't look back, because this is my favorite, like one of my favorite fantasy series for sure. Caral, baby. I think this series is so good. This is by Stephanie Garber. I think she's coming out with a new book. I think I saw that and I almost died. But I love this book so much. I think it is so great. Was it Stephanie Garber? I can't remember. Anyway, this is, you guys know, the Caraval, Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Like, I'm sure you've heard of it. I think start with Caraval because they're so good. So it's basically a giant, like, carnival, in a sense. And so everything is like a little bit magic and like a little bit like unique, and you don't know what's real, what's not. There's a little bit of like I was gonna say fantasy, not fantasy, whimsicalness. Like, there's so much to these, but they're also like that you want to follow the main characters. It's 2 girls. So this one is actually oh my gosh, why can't I remember her name? Is not Evangeline. Scarlet, and then the second one is Donatella, and then the third one kind of goes back between both of them. But I just think you would love the series if you definitely want to step into fantasy, because it's not overwhelming, but it's super, super fun. I think that's the kicker. It's so much fun, and you just enjoy it. I listened to these on, I read this one, but I listened to some of them on Audible. Oh my gosh. And so I 10 out of 10 recommend doing that, because you feel like you're listening to a movie, no lie. So 10 out of 10 recommend these books for sure. Okay, then I would also definitely recommend Rebecca Ross' Divine Rivals for YA fantasy lookers. This book, it's a duology, and so that's super, super nice, because it's very quick. You don't have to, you're not in too deep. But I also think there's more to come in this world, just not necessarily with these characters. So if you want more, eventually more will come, but like for now you're only sticking to 2 books. It's not like that deep. I was in the store yesterday or the other day at Target, and someone was looking at these books, and I wanted so bad to be like, get it. But I was like, let me not. I'm too antisocial for that. But I think this series is so good. I think that you would love it, especially because I feel like this one was definitely like romance subplot fantasy, and I think that that's a nice twist. It's a breath of fresh air, palate cleanser. It's not overwhelming. It's not too much information. It's not this giant world building thing. I think it's very chill, very relaxed, but you kind of love it the whole time. I forgot to mention that all of those fantasy ones are also romance. It is what it is. It's kind of, I don't think I've ever read a fantasy without a romance. I don't think I've ever read them. I'm sure there's some out there, but like, I don't know why there's some out there. But anyway, love this. 10 out of 10. Anyway, those are my recommendations. I'm sure a lot of these you've read. If you've never read any of them and you're gonna buy them, let me know for sure. Also let me know what you would recommend. I feel like I definitely have a good collection of books, but I feel like, what books would you recommend first, where people started? Because people do ask me quite often, like, where should I start? And again, it's so hard. You kind of gotta ask them a few questions, figure it out, because like, what have you read before? Are you a big reader? Whatever. Anyway, not gonna lie, I don't remember what I was saying, but if you have any recommendations for me, let me know, because a lot of people like to ask me for them, and I like to give them options, of course, just to kind of see where they are. So let me know. And that is it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, nerds.